Hello there, Lawrence Grayson back again for shortformvideo.com with a festive After Effects tutorial for you to try your hand at. Now, for those of you who haven't seen the tutorial preview, this is what we're aiming for. Now, regular viewers will know that I try to avoid third-party plugins like Trapcode Particular and that kind of thing. So all of this can be achieved using the standard toolset in CS3, CS4 or CS5. And also the project file will be up on my website at shortformvideo.com, available for free download. So if you want to skip the tutorial, you can go straight to my website and grab the file from there. Okay, so let's get started. First thing to do is create a new composition. We'll call it Seasons Greetings. I'm using the PAL widescreen square pixel preset, but obviously you can use anything you like, and we'll set it to 10 seconds long. Now the first thing I'm going to do is create the icy text looking background, and if you've seen my glassy iced up text tutorial, you'll know how to do this already, so I'll run through it fairly quickly. First you create a brand new solid, and we'll pick a nice kind of icy blue color. I'll call it Ice Background and hit OK. Then you go to your Effects and Presets panel and find the Fractal Noise effect and just apply that. Then you twirl down the Animation Presets and find the second Cinders preset, and that will automatically create this effect. Go to your background layer and tap U to bring up the keyframes, and just drag the evolution keyframe from the 5 second mark to the end of your project. And that'll create a slow ice type animation. Now you can play around with it to your heart's content. You can increase the contrast, the brightness, the evolution settings or the subsettings, or maybe use your own background altogether. All I'm going to do is drop the opacity down to about 80%, and we'll leave it at that. Next step is to create your text. Now I'm going to type Seasons Greetings. And we'll just line it up in the middle. Now just a quick word of the text that I'm using. The typeface I'm using is Better Heather, which you may not have installed. I'm just going to change the settings from metrics to optical to space it more naturally. And I'm also going to add a stroke to the outside. Now we'll set it to 10 pixels for now. And we'll rename this text layer Text Bold. And I'll just duplicate that layer and rename it to Text Inner. I'll take away the stroke, and I'll just change the color to red for now to give you an idea of where we're heading. And that gives us this nice festive looking text. One thing I want to do is just add a ramp effect to our text inner layer, and we'll change the start color to a nice bright festive red, and the end color to a nice dark red. And I'll bring the end point and start point in closer to give us this denser ramp effect that you can see here. I'll just scroll in so you can see that a little bit closer. Okay, so the next step is to create the particle effect. You see the kind of drop snow particles or ice particles that you saw in the preview. And to do that, we're just going to hit Control C on the text inner layer to copy that. And we'll create a new composition that matches the settings of our previous one. And we'll call this Particles. Just hit OK and paste our text from the previous composition into the new composition. Now we don't need the ramp setting on this, so I'll just delete that. and for no particular reason I'm going to set it to white. Now the first thing we need to do is to set up a linear wipe. So go to your Effects and Presets panel and find the linear wipe effect and just drag that onto your text layer. I'm going to set the transition completion to about 50% so we can see what we're doing a little bit better. And I'm going to adjust the wipe angle so that it's matching the italics angle of the text. So in my case, looks like we're looking at the 106 degree mark. So if we just scrub through the effect, you can see it's a lot more natural in its progression than a straight 90 degree angle would be. Okay, so with the timeline indicator at the beginning of your project, create a keyframe for the transition completion of 0. Move the timeline indicator to about the 5-second mark, and create another keyframe by dragging the value up to 100%. The next thing to do is select the linear wipe effect you've just created and hit Ctrl and D to duplicate it. And what I'm going to do now is reverse the angle by adding 180 degrees to it. So we started off with 106 degrees, so I'll be looking at a value of 286. And I also want to reverse the keyframes. So if we select the text inner layer again and tap U, it brings up the keyframe values. So I just want you to swap the keyframes that we created at the 0 and 5-second mark, and just swap them round. So the end keyframe is now at the 0-second mark and the starting keyframe is at the 5-second mark. Now what that actually creates is a very, very thin transition effect, and this is what we're going to use as our particle generator. But I want a little bit more than that, so I'm going to go back to both linear wipe effects and feather them by a value of 3 each. Okay, so go back to your Season's Greetings composition, and we'll just drag the particles composition into our Season's Greetings comp and drop it at the bottom because we don't actually need to see it. I'll create a brand new solid and we'll call this particle wipe and hit OK. Go to your Effects and Presets panel and find the particle playground effect and add it to your particle wipe layer. First thing to do is turn off the Canon effect, which is the default setting for this, because that's obviously not what we want. We do that by just taking the particles per second value down to 0. Then you twirl down the layer exploder settings and set the explode layer to your particles composition that you've dragged in. Now I'm just going to solo this layer. Just need to make a few changes to this. I'm going to twirl down the gravity settings and reduce the force from 120 down to 60. I'm going to make the particle radius 3, and I'll grab the glow effect from our Effects and Presets panel and apply that as well. Now if you're happy with fairly obviously square particles that Particle Playground creates, then you can leave it at that. But I just want to soften them up, so I'm going to find the Fast Blur effect and apply that as well, and just take the blurriness up by a value of 2 in the horizontal and vertical axes. Okay, that's looking kind of nice, but I actually want a few more particles than this, and I'd also like them to be probably a little bit faster in the fall off. So I'll just tweak the gravity settings again, maybe take them up to 80. I'll go back to the particle composition and tap U to bring up the keyframes again, and I'll just grab the keyframes for the first linear wipe and pull them forward by 1 frame, and that will thicken up the transition wipe that we've created. Okay, the next step is to set the blending mode of the particle wipe layer, so I'm going to go to blending mode and select color dodge, and that'll just brighten up these red areas where the white particle and the red intersects. So we just need to set up a linear wipe that matches the snow particles that we've just created. And the simplest way to do that is to go back to your particles composition and find the linear wipe 2 effect. Hit Ctrl+C to copy it, put the timeline indicator at the beginning of your timeline, and just hit Ctrl and V to paste it on both the inner and the bold text layers. And that will match a linear wipe on the text as the particle layer progresses. Now I actually like the particles to be slightly in advance of the text layer wipe, and the simplest way to do that is to adjust the underlying particles layer. So I'm just going to grab the particles layer and drag it by 1 keyframe forward, maybe even 2 keyframes forward. So if I scroll in now, you can see that we've got our particle fall off happening in advance of the linear wipe. It gives it a more natural look. If I go back to the original, you'll notice that it's in an arc. So if you want your text to arc as well, just find the warp effect. It's in the distort subsection, and we'll drag this and drop it onto the text inner layer, and maybe reduce the bend to 22. Hit Ctrl and C to copy it, and make sure you paste it on both the text inner, the text bold, and more importantly the text inner layer in your particles composition. Now I'm just going to turn off the visibility of our particle layer because that's the thing that's slowing everything down. I'm going to right click on the text bold layer and select layer styles and drop shadow. I'll change the color of the drop shadow to a slightly more festive green. I'm also going to grab the glow effect and apply that as well. And finally, right click and create a new solid. Make it white. We'll call it Snow Transition and hit OK. Grab your ellipse tool and create yourself a nice large elliptical mask. Swap it from add to subtract. Tool down the mask properties and set the feather to about 90. And that'll give us our nice kind of snowy corners effect to make it look like a window. And all we do to create the fade out towards the end is at the 5-second mark, create a mask expansion keyframe of 0, and at the 9-second mark reduce the mask expansion until it fills the whole screen with white. So in my case that's about 370 pixels. Okay, I'll turn the particle wipe layer back on. We'll just create a quick round preview so you can see how it looks. And there you have it. Our Season's Greetings After Effects project with twinkling snow and a nice snowy vignette, all ready for you to add your own cheesy Christmas soundtrack to it. Hope you found this useful. Just a quick reminder, you'll be able to find the CS3, the After Effects CS3 project file for this on my website at shortformvideo.com. So if you don't want to create it yourself, feel free to head straight to my website, download it, and use it however you like. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.